how do we make godly decisions? There seems to be two groups of people in church. One group seems to hear from God over every decision. God told me to do this, God told me to do that. And then there's another group who don't seem to hear from God about any decision at all. Decisions are made just purely out of common sense and logic. It's like the first group is acting like God's will is a narrow pathway and you should only move when you hear God speak. The second group acts more like God's will is like a 6-lane highway and you can basically do anything you want within the confines of sound morals and common sense. So practically, which is it? It's an important question, isn't it? Well, first of all, we're going to look at the pattern of the Apostle Paul, that key leader in the church, who made a lot of decisions. And there's one particular story that's told when he was trying to work out which direction to go in on his missions journey. He didn't feel good about going into Bithynia, east. And then one night he had a dream. He fell asleep and he saw a man from Macedonia saying, "Hey, come over here and help us." Next morning, he and his team got up and did just that. They went west. In other words, they heard from God and they followed what God said. The Spirit was explicitly leading the way. But then there's other cases in Paul's life, in his journey, when it didn't work like that. For example, on one case, it says that he decided to sail past Ephesus because he was in a hurry to get to Jerusalem. And then in another case, it says he thought it best to stay alone with his team in Athens. In another case, the scripture says that he planned to visit the church in Corinth on his way to Macedonia, just because he wanted to. Sometimes God spoke and he followed it. Sometimes he made up his own mind. So which is it? How do you know when to hear back from God from a decision when you're facing that job opportunity or that big decision about a home or where to live or where to study at uni? And how do you know when it's right to make your own decision? Well, wouldn't it be nice if there was a really handy formula? On these occasions, you listen to God. On these occasions, you listen to yourself. But see, it's not like that, is it? It's a relationship. It's not a set of rules. And every relationship is different. There's a dynamic. There's a two-way engagement. God speaks, we speak. Sometimes God says, "I want you to do this." Other times God says, "Well, Tania, what do you want to do?" I love the image that Jesus painted when he was on earth. Jesus said, "I haven't come to call you servants. I've come to call you friends." A friendship that's defined by the things that God says. Think about that for a moment. We may not have servants, many of us, but we certainly know what it is to be an employee of a boss. Think about the difference between how your boss speaks to you and then how a friend speaks to you. You see, the boss says, "Tania, I want you to do this, this, and this. I want you to get it done by 5 p.m. But that's not how a friend relates, is it? A friend invites you into their heart. A friend tells you secrets. A friend is engaged in two-way conversation. And this is the image that Jesus portrays for us. It's hard to imagine, isn't it? The God of the universe calling us friend. But that's the heart of God. You see, he values our input, our common sense, our intelligence, our know-how. And sometimes God says, "I want you to do this. Please follow." The man from Macedonia. Other times, God says, "Well, what do you want to do?" Use your logic. Use your research. Use your common sense, your own strategy, because I've made you for the call that I have for you. And both are equally godly. Both are equally good. We follow Jesus. We listen to his voice. But as we do, we use the resources around us to make our own decisions as well. If God's not speaking, he's given you the resources to make your own decision. There's freedom in this beautiful friendship we have with God. I hope that's been a blessing to you today. Thanks so much for tuning in. For more on hearing God's voice and having your own God conversation, go to godconversations.com.